You're listening to A Tiny Homestead, the podcast comprised entirely of conversations with homesteaders, cottage food producers, and crafters, and topics adjacent. I'm your host, Mary Lewis. A Tiny Homestead podcast is sponsored by Homegrown Collective, a free-to-use farm-to-table platform, emphasizing local connections with ability to sell online, buy, sell, trade in local garden groups, and help us grow a new food system. You can find them at homegrowncollective.org. Today I'm talking with Dawn at Dawn's Dirt in Alberta, Canada. I don't even know what time it is. Good afternoon, Dawn. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, it's just after 4:30 in the afternoon here in Alberta.
Yeah, and it's just after 5:30 here. And again, I tend to do most of my recording in the morning. So I'm programmed to start to say good morning. And I'm like, no, it's not morning. Stop it.
It's funny how things go like that. You get into a routine and a rut, but here I am throwing you for a loop already. So let's do this.
I'm all good with that. And the only thing that I request is that we don't talk religion or politics, only because I haven't, and it can become really divisive and hurtful. And I would just rather talk about positive things like growing plants and feeding people.
I love it. Those are my two favorite subjects to talk about, but I don't like the division and the either. So sounds great with me.
Yep. And I've come really close, Dawn. I asked one of your compatriots in Canada how Canada saw America right now. And she was like, if I say something not okay, just edit it. And I was like, okay. And she was very, very diplomatic and kind. And we kind of talked around things for 5 minutes. And then I was like, okay, that's as close as I want to come to talking politics on my podcast. And she just laughed.
For sure.
So worked out great. Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Dawn from Dawn's Dirt, if you're looking me up. And I am a farm girl. I was raised in the greenhouse industry here in Canada. So my parents had a 26,000 square foot greenhouse and they grew long English cucumbers. And in 2007, me and my ex-husband built our greenhouse. My parents sold and we took over kind of my family business. And we were growing long English cucumbers as well. And we started, it was pretty tough. Farming is of all types and sizes, no matter what it is really hard. And so we ended up branching into tomatoes and peppers, and then we eventually ended up growing 20 acres of garden and field crops. And I direct marketed everything that I grew to my consumers at farmers markets and online and things like that. So I was a vegetable farmer for many, many years. Plus I had some chickens and some sheep. So that's who I was. Unfortunately, a year and a half ago, I had to sell. And so now I'm getting into the whole online thing. And if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. So I'm teaching people how to grow food in the spaces that they have. I think everyone should be growing something in their backyard. And I'm teaching people how to do it. So that's my new venture.
Fabulous. And I agree on the teaching a man to fish premise. And we are trying to feed our community too. So we are aligned on both of those points.
Perfect. I love it. I think that we've lost a connection between our food. Back in the day, back 50 years ago, grandma had a garden, great grandma had a garden. Everyone had a garden and a few chickens in their backyard. And I just feel like we need to take society and shift backwards to some of that again, because it's so important for kids to know where their food comes from. And so yeah, I just think that's where we need to head to, is to know that your carrots come from the ground and that, eggs come from chickens.
Yeah, they sure do. Weird, huh?
They don't come from a grocery store. I mean, grocery stores are a building that houses, items that we can eat. But at the end of the day, the farmer and the field and the sun and the animals and the earth, that is where our food actually comes from.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It does. I am living proof of it. I ate butter crunch lettuce out of our garden on my taco last night.
Oh, yum, yum. And did you grow your tomatoes too?
Well, we do. We do grow tomatoes. We do canned tomato sauce. We don't can tomato paste. Long story, haven't tried it yet. But we just used our last jar of homemade canned San Marzano tomato sauce last weekend. And so we had to buy tomato sauce from the store.
Yeah, that's not even the same product. Like you're comparing apples to oranges almost.
I'm aware it was a very sad moment, but the taco turned out okay, and the lettuce kind of made up a little bit for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, lettuce that you find in a grocery store is best case going to be a week old. By the time it goes from the farm to the packing house to the warehouse to the, been trucked or whatever, it's going to be at least a week old by the time it gets to your shelf in your own fridge. And so the lettuce that you picked out of your backyard is going to be the best lettuce because you picked it 20 minutes before you ate.
Yes, and having butter crunch lettuce on June 1st is crazy to us because we haven't been able to get lettuce seeds in the garden this early. And the reason we could is because we have a heated greenhouse now. So this was like the culmination of a lot of hoping when we built the greenhouse, and then a lot of hoping and getting those little baby lettuces into the garden from the greenhouse. So it was a triumph, I swear to you.
I love it. Like my greenhouse was 36,000 square feet. How big was your greenhouse?
It is not anywhere near as big as yours. I think it's 10 by 25 or something like that.
That's still a good size space. So what are you all growing in there this year?
Well, a lot of it's already grown and put out in the garden, but we grew a lot of different kinds of tomato plants. Cucumber, squash, lettuces, radishes are out there in raised beds. I don't even know what else is. Oh, there's a metric butt ton of basil plants that need to get in the garden this coming weekend.
Yum. Tomatoes and basils, that's where it's at, Make up some
Yes.
pasta sauce. Do you make your own pasta sauce?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes,
And
I
good
do.
tomatoes. Sorry,
And
I just
you can make
go.
a really good spaghetti sauce in 30 minutes. People say you can't, but I do it. It's really good.
So what's your trick?
Really good tomato sauce, fresh herbs if I can get them, and I can't get them in the winter time, but I can sure get them now. Oregano, fresh basil, onion, sautéed onion, real garlic, like minced garlic, a little bit of balsamic vinegar, a pinch of sugar, a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, and I think that's about it. Oh, and some
Uh,
tomato paste.
Nice. Yum. Good tomatoes make good sauce. And so as you're speaking here, my mouth is watering because I can just taste all those good ingredients put together.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I'm jumping on a plane this afternoon and I'm coming over for dinner tonight. So, you know,
Oh, well, you're gonna be late because you can't get from Alberta to here before I go to bed. I'm sorry.
that's funny. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But no, I love to cook. So, and what I'm really looking forward to is bruschetta. Do you know what bruschetta is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fresh
I'm
tomatoes and basil and
mozzarella
yeah.
cheese, garlic. Yeah,
Yes.
I am.
Yum.
I am ready. Like as soon as we can pick leaves off the basil plants, I am doing that because I love that so much. And it's so easy. And I won't run down the recipe. I've already said it on my podcast like a bunch of times. Um,
Oh,
okay, so I was listening to your episode. You have 3 on your podcast, and it wasn't the one with the lady that makes tallow, and it wasn't the one about tomatoes. It was the other one.
I don't remember which one that is. I've actually got 33, I think, out right now.
Oh, I only saw
Um,
3. Okay.
yeah, no, I've got about 33 episodes out right now. And so you don't remember which one it was? What was I
I
talking about?
I am trying to remember because my husband came home and was talking about work, and I completely have spaced what the heck you're talking about. The lady with the tallow was the second one I listened to, so I remember that one better. Um, Either way, you are huge on growing our own food, making sure that our kids know where food comes from, to the point you started a podcast and you are
Yes.
coaching people. So take me through, like, I would not ask you to coach me because I've been gardening for quite a while, and so has my husband. But if I was a newbie and I hit you up and was like, tell it to me like I'm 4 years old. How do I start growing things that I can eat? How would you go about teaching somebody?
Well, the first thing is hire a coach, someone that's done it longer, because they can look at your space and figure out what's going to work where. Because there's, cool weather crops and warm weather crops, and there's all the different things. What should plants eat? Plants need nutrients just like we need nutrients, or we need food to grow. And so hire a coach first off, and then with that coach, or with when I coach my clients, what I do is I take them through their space. I get them to draw maps of their space, take me pictures of their space. And we jump on Zoom calls, group Zoom calls, and we walk through, well, you should plant this here and you should plant that there. And what are we going to do about this? And what are we going to do about that? And so I tell them, I take all the guesswork out. See, you can go on to YouTube and get all of the videos, and you can get too much information, I sometimes think. So sometimes when you have too much information, you get a little overwhelmed, and you still don't even know what to do, because, you know, this person said to prune your tomatoes like this, and that person said to prune your tomatoes like that, but which one's actually right? Well, it depends on your space. It depends on what we're doing. And so that's what I help my clients do, is I help them take the guesswork out of it, because they can come to me and we can, make a plan tailored right to them at whatever skill level they have. So I had a 36,000 square foot greenhouse with 20 acres of garden, but I've also got clients with just a small backyard. And so we start with the things that are easy to them. Last year I had a client, and she said, I want to grow something in my backyard, and I've got this tiny little space. And we looked at it, and it was a lot of shade. And she said, I really wish I could grow lettuce, but that's probably going to be the hardest one. And I'm like, actually, nope, ding, 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 ding. That's a cool weather crop. So, and it's a shade crop. So that's going to be your best crop to grow in that space. And she had success with her little toddler daughter. They had success in their backyard growing spinach and lettuce and the greens and the kale and all the things. And so that's what happens when you hire a coach, is you're taking the guesswork out, and you actually will see success if you put in the work.
Absolutely. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a homesteading coach. And I had joked with my husband a while back that I should do that. And he said, but you're still learning homesteading. And I said, honey, I've been doing homesteading since I was a little kid, and my parents bought their house on the acre lot in the Pine Barrens of Maine. I said, I've been learning about this since I was 6. He was like, oh, is there such a thing as a homesteading coach? I said, I have no freaking idea. So now I know that I can tell him that there is, because I talked to one tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I don't just coach on gardens. I coach on farm to table sales. And so I teach people how to take their little homestead and actually save money and make money off of it. I just started myself. So since selling my farm, I've moved to another small property, and farming's in my blood. It's just who I am. And so I got myself 150 chickens, and I'm going to farmers markets yet again, because that's what I know how to do. And so I've got clients that I teach how to make money off of their chickens, and how to make money off of their gardens, and how to make money off of there's an art to it. It's a business. When you have a little homestead, you have to treat it like a little business, and that's what it is. It's a small scale farm and a little business. And the more small scale farms and the more small businesses that we get up and going, I think the better our society, all societies, and our food system will be. If you know your farmer and can shake the person that feeds you, oof, that's where it's at for me.
Yeah, buy local. You're supporting the people who feed you.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm not going to get too much into it, but like, what happens if something happened with the grocery store? What happens if something ever happened with our debit cards? We don't know. I can't predict the future. I don't know. And so if you have something in your backyard, it's just, it's a way for you to just do it for yourself and do it for your friends and neighbors. And I really think that it would be a way that we can really feed the world. If everybody grew something that they could grow in the space they have, we would have less hunger problems globally, I think, actually.
Absolutely. Um, our first farmers market for the season is this coming Saturday. And this will be the first one where we've actually had some produce to sell at the very first farmers market. again, a triumph. I can't, Dawn, I'm so excited. Like, it's killing me how big this feels. And my husband is the one who goes, I am not a people person. I'm an introvert, like an extreme introvert. And I'm so excited for him to go do this again for the third year because he has made such great connections with people there. And um people will come up to him at the farmers market and be like, I heard your wife's podcast. I love what she's doing. Why doesn't she come to the farmers market? And my husband's like, because she's an extreme introvert and it's a lot easier for her to talk to somebody over the computer than it is to talk to them in person. And they're like, oh. And so I'm hoping that by the end of the summer I might actually be able to work up the whatever it takes to go to the last farmers market and meet some of these people.
Oh man, and so honestly, like I don't understand you at all because I'm the exact opposite. I'm the extreme extrovert. I love farmers markets. I will stand there and I will say hello to hopefully every person that walks past my booth. And when I sold my farm, that was actually the hardest part of selling the farm was not even selling the farm itself. It was hugging my customers and just saying like, "Sorry, I'm selling the farm," and the tears and the
Mm-hmm.
the relationships. It's the farmers markets and farm to table. It's about community and it's about the people in your building those relationships with one another based on like good wholesome great food. So the fact that you're at a farmers market is just, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. If you could see my face, you'd see a huge smile right now.
Oh yeah, we've been bouncing around here for the last couple of days because it's only one more. This weekend was only one more week until the farmers market starts this coming Saturday. And my husband was just like bouncing his knee the other morning drinking his coffee. And I said, what's up? And he said, I'm so excited. He said, we have actual produce to sell at the first farmer's market of the season. And the smile on his face was huge. It's, it's so silly and it's not. On one hand, this is really silly. Lots of people have food to sell at the farmer's market. But on the other hand, this is a big freaking deal for us. And we don't have anybody who can relate to this, that we really know. So we're bouncing this energy off of each other. And it's like, we're so dumb.
No, you're not. Like I bounce it off me because I am right there with you. Like I'm so excited for you to have your booth and to meet people and sell things and just build relationships. It's so perfect. And you've been doing it for 3 years, you said now?
This is the third year. Yeah.
Wow, and so the repeat customers and the knowing the good food and I was known as the tomato lady. I'm gonna be known as the egg lady now that I've got chickens. But yeah, I was known as the tomato lady for so, so many years. Yeah.
I think my husband is known as the free sniffs guy, SNIFFS, because we sell candles. We sell handmade candles there too. So
Oh, that's pretty cool.
he has a sign on the table that says free sniffs, and people just giggle about it.
I love it. I used to say to people, they would walk up to my booth and I would actually pick up a pepper because a fresh pepper is really firm. And I used to say to people, would you like to feel my peppers? They're very firm. And
Uh-huh.
people would just laugh and laugh and laugh at me. And then I'd just stand there stone faced. I would just play it up. I'm like, I'm talking about peppers. What are you guys laughing at? Like, I just played it all up. It was so much fun.
The only thing that would be funnier and more obvious is if you sold melons.
I will admit there was one man one time and he picked up a cucumber, a long English cucumber, and said something and my face was just like, and he said, "You started it." And I said, "Yeah, fair enough. I did start that." So it was very funny.
Whoops,
Yeah.
turnabout is fair play, yes. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so I just blanked again. I swear I get into this 20 minute spot and I'm like, what was I going to ask her? So do you want to go back to farming or are you really enjoying if you had the chance to go back to getting land again and farming, would you do it or are you enjoying the coaching?
I enjoy the coaching a lot, a whole lot, and I will always do that. I'd like to build that side of it up. But once you're a farmer and once you're growing food for people, it's in your blood and it's your whole identity and it's who you are. So that's why I'm fighting to get back into it, right? I just, I cannot envision my life without having animals or garden or, food in my backyard. I can't envision my life without doing that. And so I love the teaching side of it. I love the people side because I'm an extrovert, but I need to do it for myself too.
Yeah, absolutely. I figured that was the answer, but I thought I should ask anyway. I can't imagine not having a garden where we live. My parents had a garden while I was growing up. My grandpa had a garden when I was growing up. That was my first experience with a garden was my grandpa. And he had cucumbers in his garden and I said, "Can I get a cucumber?" And he was like, "Of course, Linny," because my nickname was Lynn or is Lynn. He's like, "Of course, Lenny, go pick one." And I brought it to him. And he's like, "Well, what are you giving it to me for?" And I said, "Well, don't you want to wash it?" And he said, "No." And he wiped it off on his pants and broke it in half and said, "Eat it." That was my introduction to a garden.
That's the best food, right? The carrot that comes out of the soil with some dirt on it,
Hmm.
and that yeah. One of my clients actually last year too. Her daughter actually they planted the garden as a family, and this little girl was probably I don't know 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, young girl, and her mom told me the story of they had friends come over, and the friends came up to the door or come up the walk or something, and this little girl picked carrots out of her planter box and was showing the company that came to their home the carrots that she grew and how proud she was that she grew those carrots. And that it teaches kids work ethic, it teaches them where food comes from, it teaches them responsibility. If you don't water your little seedlings, they're going to die, right, like on a homestead, your chickens or your pigs or your cows or your vegetables or whatever, all of those living beings are reliant on you as the steward or farmer to take care of them to actually have something to eat. So there's so much pride with that with kids especially.
Yeah. Plus, it's really hard to get kids to eat foods that they don't want to eat, but if they grow it, they're going to eat it.
Absolutely, for sure. And there's a huge difference in the taste and flavor in something that you get in your back, like pick from your backyard, as opposed to something you buy at a grocery store. I had lots and lots of kids over the many years that I was doing farmers markets that the parents would say to me, "My kids won't eat vegetables, but they'll eat your vegetables." And
Hmm.
so, yeah, my kids or their kids during the winter time here in Alberta, we didn't I wasn't growing year round, and yeah, those kids would go with less vegetables in the wintertime because they just wouldn't eat them because they just tasted like nothing, right? Whereas the
Uh-huh.
homegrown ones, a tomato that tastes like tomato, not like cardboard, like there's nothing like it.
I can't wait. I can't wait till we have tomatoes again.
Exactly.
Every time I'm talking with somebody on the podcast about tomatoes, my mouth waters because I haven't had a good tomato since last August.
Yeah. Well, the grocery store one. So here's something interesting. So I was in the big greenhouse industry, and and I'm not saying anything bad by it. Like I love all sizes of farming. We need it all in some capacity. But the big greenhouses in the greenhouse industry, they choose varieties of tomatoes based on shelf life, not on flavor. Whereas in my small greenhouse, and at 36,000 square feet, yes, it was small for the industry. I chose my tomato varieties based only on flavor. That's all I cared about. And I even grew one variety of tomato. They split really bad. If we had a cloudy day, the plant would suck up too much water and they would split open. And I
Yeah.
still grew that variety, even though they went bad a little bit quicker because they just tasted so much better and they were candy tomatoes.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, a cardboard tomato isn't worth the money you're going to spend on it because you're not going to want to eat it anyway.
No, no, and that's the thing. I think food was created to for us to enjoy, right? Like when you think of a good meal, and just like you were saying, your mouth is watering, and so when you have a good meal, a good steak, a good egg, a good tomato, like it just tastes so much different than and I'm not trying to throw a big company under the bus, but when you go and get something from fast food, it's just not the same. It's just really, really not the same.
No, It's absolutely not. Um, I've told this story once, I think, already on the podcast. I'm going to share it with you because you'll get a kick out of it. I have always loved celery. I used to love celery with peanut butter smeared on it when I was a kid. And I thought that celery from the grocery store was pretty good. We finally grew celery here last year or the year before. And I had no idea that celery is supposed to be sweet with kind of a peppery bite to it.
Yeah. Absolutely, right? And that's the thing. Like, again, I had client or customers that said, I don't really like tomatoes. And I would say to them, is it taste or is it texture? And they'd say taste. And I'd say, I can help you. Take a bite out of this tomato. And they go, ooh, I like your tomatoes. And that's the thing. Like, when you've not had what it's supposed to taste like when you've not had it fresh, you've not even really had that item before. You never ate celery until you ate it out of your backyard, really.
Yeah, now that you said that, in my head, all I can see is the thing on the Starship Enterprise where the captain would say Earl Grey tea, warm or whatever he would say, and it would just give him tea. And I think the food thing made other things besides tea, and it wasn't really food. Do you know what
No,
I'm talking about?
no, because I don't watch Star Trek, sorry, or Star Wars or any of that. I barely watch TV. I don't have time for that. But so it was a machine, and it would just spit out food
Yeah,
or what they called food.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I I
So it
uh,
wasn't it
I
wasn't real food.
no. I'm going to be slightly mouthy because I am kind of a slightly mouthy woman. And so I think the center aisles of our grocery store, a lot of times that's what we're getting that Starship Enterprise things that they call food out of the boxes that you find in the middle section of a grocery store. Like it's just not food. It's filler. It's not food.
Well, there's one aisle I'm really fond of in the middle of the store, and it's where the coffee beans are, because I'm a coffee fanatic, so I can't not go get coffee, but I don't really want to buy pre-made food, you know?
I will take that. Say I am with you there. I'm a coffee connoisseur as well. I need my morning cup of coffee, and then yeah, I agree with you there. I will take that portion of my statement back.
That's the only aisle I need to go to, though. That's okay.
Yeah.
I want to get back to the farmers market thing really quick because I have a couple of things that I would suggest if somebody wants to get into selling their stuff at the farmers market. I would highly, highly recommend that you spend the money and get the tent awning thingy. I don't know what they're called, but the thing that goes over your space so that you're covered if it rains, and get a couple of decent folding tables because that's where you want to display your things, and get a sign made that says the name of your business. Those are the three things that we did, and it has really worked for us. What would you suggest on?
Well, just on the whole tent thing, I used to fill buckets with concrete and then put a little screw coming out of the top of it. And
Yeah.
that's what I anchored my tent to. And so if you're going to have the tent, you need the weights because I've had my tents, move across a parking lot in the windstorm,
Oh,
even
yeah.
with 300 pounds of weights on it. So make sure you get the weights. Absolutely know your signs. I always say for myself, if it's not priced, it won't sell. So make sure you have your pricing up
Hmm.
and pile it high, watch it fly. When it gets low, it doesn't sell. Ironically, the last bag of carrots sitting on a table doesn't sell. It was just weird. There could be two or three there and it would sell. And then the last one just would not sell. And it's just a mental thing with people.
Uh,
Um, and yeah, if it's not priced, it won't sell. Pile it high, watch it fly. And yeah, just know the information, like tell the truth, who grew it, where did it come from, when was it picked, how was it grown, and just tell your story. People want to hear the story behind it.
yeah, I was going to say, and make sure you actually interact with people because if you just sit there, no one's going to buy your stuff because you're not talking to them.
Absolutely. I think the number one rule, biggest thing that you can take away from farmers markets is do not be on your cell phone. Just put your cell phone away. put it down and try and say, I told my staff when I hired staff to do farmers markets for me, I said, your goal is to say hello to every person that walks past the booth. That's the goal.
Mhm.
If you just say hello, then people will say hello back. And then if you just do an open-ended question, I used to always say, hi, can I tell you about my vegetables? And then they would say, sure. And then I would start telling them about my farm. It's a conversation. It's, you're so proud of what you're selling. You're so proud of your candles, right, that you're selling. Just
Oh, yeah.
put the cell phone down and build that relationship and have the conversation.
Yeah, because you never know when the person you're talking to is going to become a friend or a resource, or you're going to become a resource for them.
And that's what it's about, when you have a commodity, when you have a candle or you have a head of lettuce or you have a dozen eggs or if you have a side of beef or a steak or, a pork chop, that's where it's at. When we all have what we can do in the spaces that we have, then we can then barter and trade. I heard of a story, actually, I'm going to change the subject slightly. I heard of a story of an apartment building and everyone grew on their balcony something different. And once a week they would take their something different, their vegetable items down to the, entryway of the apartment building, and then they bartered and trade. This person had tomatoes, that person had basil, and that person had zucchini, boom, tomato zucchini salsa. And so yeah.
Yep,
That
it's like the stone soup story with the little red hen.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at a farmer's market. That just brought up a little story for me, actually. So there was a class. So I was at Canmore Farmers Market. It's one of my favorite markets, and it's the one I'm going to now again this year. And the teacher every year would come to my booth, and she would say, "Can the kids purchase vegetable items for our stone soup?" And so they were each given a loonie or something like that, and I just collected and donated it back to the teacher, and I donated the vegetables. But I would rip open bags of whatever, and the kids would pick out so many items and they would pay me their little loonie for it, and then they would go and put it in their stone soup. The kids did that, and it was because the teacher wanted to connect the kids to the food, to the farmer, to make their stone soup.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad I brought it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Ironically, I didn't know that.
Hmm?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I didn't know we talk about stone soup today, so that's fun.
Well, it's a crapshoot sometimes because I bring it up and people are like, "What's stone soup?" Like they haven't heard the story.
It's everyone doing what they can, right?
Yep.
That's where it's at. That will change our food system is if everyone does what they can.
Yes, and if everyone does what they can, if our supply chain goes down, people will still eat.
Yeah. So important, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so, so important. Um, yeah. One of my biggest fears actually moving off of my farm was what will I feed my kids? And so when I started off looking at places in town, and every house I went to, the first thing I did was I went to the backyard and I was thinking, where can I hide my chickens and where can I put the garden? That's what I cared about when I was looking for a place. And so thankfully I ended up back in the country. But yeah, yeah, that was the most important thing to me when I was looking at places moving into town is where I can put my chickens and where I can put my garden. Boom. That's it. Food.
Uh-huh. When we moved here, I keep saying this, like last year it was 3.5 years, this year it's 4.5 years. We moved here 4.5 years ago. Moved here in August of 2020. And we moved from in town to outside of town by about 4 miles. And we live in the middle of cornfields. When we were looking for a place, my two things were it must have a flat space for a garden for my husband, because he's the one who really loves gardening. And hopefully it'll have 2 bathrooms because I was really sick of having one bathroom.
Yeah.
The garden space won out. We still only have one bathroom.
But you have land, and if you're a farmer, drop those trousers and just do what you need to do outside because
Exactly.
you've got the space to do it. So you actually have 2 bathrooms. Just don't pee on your lettuce or something. Sorry, maybe I
Right.
shouldn't say something like
No,
that, but
that's okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
We have a beautiful tree line. So if I happen to be the one in the bathroom and my husband really needs to do number one, as it were, he will go
yeah.
out and pee in the tree line. He's like, I don't care, nobody can see me anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough for sure. I
Plus it
think every farmer's done it.
oh yeah. And it keeps the coyotes away.
Oh, never thought of that, but it's true. Yeah, that smell would for sure keep them away. Yeah.
Yep. Yep, he's done it on purpose to keep the coyotes away from the property, and it's worked. So I'm all good with that. I don't care where he pees; it's fine. Um, as
I
long
have a
as I
dog.
get, huh?
Oh, I was gonna say I have a dog outside that does that around my yard, and so that'll keep the animals away as well.
Yeah, exactly. They don't. Predators do not like domestic animals' excrement or urine, and they don't like people's either at all. They're like, nah, that's not something I want to mess with. I'm not going on that property because there's people there or there's a
Yeah.
dog there. So
Yes.
it works out great. Um, so try to keep this to half an hour, and we're past half an hour, and I thought we would be. Where can people find you, Dawn?
So I'm Dawn's Dirt. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. And then I've got my own podcast going, Dawn's Dirt. And so I'm on Spotify, Apple, Rumble, and YouTube. So lots of different places, Dawn's Dirt. Just look up Dawn's Dirt and you'll get me.
And your website is dawnsdirt.ca, right?
Yes. It's not super crazy updated, but yeah, that's my website there for sure.
Okay. All right, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Dawn, I was so excited all day to talk to you, and now I'm absolutely pleased that I got the chance to talk with you. Thank you for your time. And as always, people can find me at a tinyhomesteadpodcast.com. Have a good night, Dawn.
I love it. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Bye.